I'm excited to be here with you guys. Yeah, this is pretty cool, this whole virtual conference thing. So
we're rocking our virtual
Stan, you're joining us all the way.
Haircuts too.
And I guess we're all in different time zones too. Stan, you're joining us all the way from Ukraine, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So I guess to kick it off for our audience, maybe you guys can give us a little bit of an introduction about yourselves, what SKALE is, and perhaps some of your entrepreneurial experience that led to you being here today.
Yeah, would be happy to. So pleasure to be here today at the Ethereal Summit. I'm Jack O'Halloran. I'm the CEO of SKALE Labs and co-founder, along with Stan, who will introduce himself here in a second. So we are building the SKALE network, and we're the core team helping build this open, decentralized effort, which is SKALE. SKALE is designed to help Ethereum scale to billions and multiple billions of end users. It's an elastic blockchain network that makes it incredibly easy for Ethereum developers to deploy applications to the SKALE chain, where there's synergy and synchronicity between the two networks that ultimately fixes a lot of the user experience and speed and costs and essentially scaling issues that we've seen today. So that's a quick overview on SKALE. And I, by the way, have been doing tech startups in Silicon Valley for about 15 years and was really pumped to move from AI machine learning over into blockchain in 2017.
My name is Stan Kladko. I'm the CTO of SKALE, and my background is very much a usual nerd. So I did physics for a pretty long time. I was doing physics research at Los Alamos National Lab in New Mexico, and then at Stanford University in California. And then at some point, as many people, I joined startups. So my first startup was a crypto startup founded by Professor Dan Bonnet at Stanford. That was a cryptographic accelerator, hardware. And then pretty much my entire life, I was doing different types of crypto, working at startups. And then I had a crypto lab that was doing security, vulnerability analysis for the US government. And then several years ago, I found out about ETH and got really excited. So my first kind of meeting ETH was in Cancun at DevCon 3. And the moment I kind of stepped into this conference, DevCon 3, I realized that's really a very interesting topic. And the thing that made me interested was that I realized that problems that mankind had for a very long time, the economic problems, the problems of economic efficiency, suddenly these problems could be solved. So I really got interested in blockchain, in particular in Ethereum, because of this disruptive change to the economy that this thing can actually provide.
That's very similar to what got me involved in crypto as well, was discovering Ethereum, and very similar story to what you just shared. And now we're coming up on what I think will be a big moment for Ethereum with the launch of SKALE and the technology that you've built to help scale Ethereum and help it serve billions of users around the world. But as a part of that launch, token distribution is critically important because it leads to the security properties of the network, and that's what got everyone excited about this technology in the first place. And you're using a token distribution mechanic called proof of use. Can you tell us a little bit more about that and why you chose that mechanic?
Yeah, would be happy to. So if you think about tokens are not shares. They're not ownership pieces in a centralized company, right? Tokens are really pieces of software, and they have a utility. They have a function. If you look at Ethereum, it actually functions and it does something. If you look at Bitcoin, it functions and it does something. And so what it does is they help support networks, and they help support different mechanisms and different functions that help utility come through a blockchain. Now, one issue that we've seen over the last few years is a lot of tokens have launched when in fact they really aren't supported by it. They're not doing anything yet. The network's not live yet. The utility is not being produced. So we're taking a different route where we first launch the network and the tokens launch in conjunction with the network, then launching. And then there's no liquidity. So tokens aren't being traded. They're actually not really acting as ownership stakes and shares or financial functions. They're really performing their service to the network. What that does is that incentivizes the right usage of the token initially, and ultimately produces a much stronger network and a healthier network over the 3 and 5 and 10-year time frame. So maybe it's less fruitful at the start in terms of token appreciation, but the goal for the SKALE network is really around utility and really supporting Ethereum. So we've been when we met the consensus team who's doing the Activate program, they've actually built a proof of use mechanism that really designed around launching a network and network health. And so we're excited to jump into that and happy to go deeper. But really, network health and putting dApps first as opposed to token value at the start is really the strategy here.
That makes sense. And Stan, can you maybe tell us a little bit more about the mechanics of how this works? How does proof of use actually function, and how does it help secure the network?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think the first thing to understand is that SKALE is a very unique network because our goal is to cross the chasm. So if you look at blockchain today, it's very much like computers before Apple. So you have all kinds of early adopters, people experimenting, trying this thing and that thing, but still very early and it's still not mainstream. So with SKALE, we want blockchain and crypto to become mainstream, to be used by people. And the way we approach this, SKALE is a network like AWS. Anything you are able to do in the cloud, on a network like Amazon Web Services, you'll be able to do on SKALE. So it's a big, ambitious project. And, when we start the network, it just kind of Tesla Roadster for us, because we understand the complex network may take years to actually perfect and grow. Now, proof of use is important because the network is complex and our goals are very ambitious and multi-year, long-term goals. We need people that stay with the network for a long time, and we need to reward these people. So when we don't want tokens to be in hands of speculators, again, because we're very long-term oriented, and this thing is is gonna happen for many, many years. So we want the tokens to be in hands of people that learn, use, try, it's going to be a process, and we want only those people to have tokens in the first place. So in order to be able to say that you are using the token, you need to be able to answer some questions about the network, and then the tokens will have to be in a smart contract for a certain period of time to prove that you're actually using the token. You're learning, you're kind of trying, you're really doing something with it. So all of this stuff is actually implemented as smart contracts. We currently have probably one of the largest ever set of smart contracts on ETH mainnet. So it's a very interesting thing. And this thing is fully decentralized. And actually the entire purpose of this thing is to prove that you, as a user, you are actually taking part actively in the network, and you are in the network for a long time. But everything is actually smart contracts. All of this is Solidity, ETH, all of the tools that people know.
Got it. That's pretty cool that it's all being coordinated in this trust minimized way, and it's not, through some off-chain mechanics to prove that.
Yeah,
correct. And I think one of the really interesting things we found out was that we were able to do so many things on ETH mainnet. Our network is kind of a decentralized competitor to AWS, but the foundational layer, the security layer of the network is actually ETH mainnet Solidity, and we saved so much time and we improved security so much by using ETH mainnet. And we also got lots of help from security experts, such as people working at Consensus and other companies, security auditors. So using the mainnet as a security foundation is a great thing. And I think that other projects may also take this approach in the future. You don't have to code everything from the start. You can actually do many things on the mainnet.
Got it.
Yeah,
Jack, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, oh, sorry, and we have a little delay, so didn't mean to interrupt Tushar, but yeah, I wanted to add, it's also interesting. This sounds very complex, and it's one of these things where even just using dApps up till now has been sometimes overly complicated, and it's impeded user growth. So when we started looking at proof of use, we thought, let's not do this if there's not going to be a smooth process. We want long-term supporters and people who understand the network to be engaged, but we don't want to limit it to only engineers. So one other really cool thing about the mechanism and what the Activate team has produced at Consensus is actually making it completely seamless. And it really brings together this Web 2 and Web 3 experience in a way I think a lot of dApps need to function and will start functioning in the near future. So it's in itself, you're getting to experience the future of Ethereum, where Ethereum smart contracts are interacting with Web 2 frameworks as well to deliver a really smooth user experience.
So is this the first time that someone has launched with a proof of use protocol like this? Or, is this a new innovation? Can you tell us a little bit more about the history of this?
Yeah, so this was done, I believe, once before. So there's an initiative called the Brooklyn Project. It's an open source legal framework and project that a lot of people got behind, where again, the goal was, let's prove a token's a token, like it's like the Howey, like let's prove a hammer's a hammer, and let's help networks launch the right way. So Phone did something similar a few years ago through Token Foundry. Now Consensus Activate is launching something, I'd say similar but very different. And to my understanding, this is the only and first implementation of this in a proof of stake network, where there's validation and delegation. The SKALE token has both a custody and a delegation function as its ERC 777. So there's a lot of new ground being cut here. And again, a lot of very complicated technical feats while making it really easy for people to participate. And ultimately, at the end of the day, hey, let's help Ethereum dApp scale. And we can't really do that as well if the token just immediately goes on exchanges and has incredible volatility. So it will go on exchanges later. Liquidity is important, but the first 90 days, it will not be there. It will be really just being used exclusively for its core purpose.
Understood. And this coincides with a testnet, if I understand correctly. Can you tell us a little bit more about your testnet plans as well as your mainnet launch plans?
Yeah, so I'll give a high level on Stan. It'd be great for him to give more specifics. But we will be launching, I think it's the 6th version of SKALE testnet, major version. There's been many versions, obviously, but that will be launching May 18th. So we're really close to what we think is final product getting pushed and tested. And then, as soon as possible after this summer, we want to get mainnet out there. So mainnet is where this will truly coincide. But Stan, do you want to talk a little bit about the developments and engineering?
Yeah, it's as I already said, it's an incredibly interesting project because essentially we're taking small fish and putting this small fish into a large fish. So we want to compete with AWS and create a decentralized cloud. So when the net is released, is like our Tesla Roadster. So you'll be able to do website and mobile apps. You will be able to do pretty much anything you can do on AWS, file storage. And then our kind of Tesla Model S will be AI. So we're adding AI. And also we are adding something which is really cool. It's mathematically provable protection against front running and manipulation. So it's going to be really fair blockchain for exchanges and DeFi. And then the idea is that it's going to evolve into an operating system, a decentralized operating system where anyone will be able to run anything. But that's going to be probably like a multi-year endeavor because the goal is so interesting. Google has 1 million computers and more. AWS has millions of computers. So this network can scale linearly. And at the end, we'll see the future where all of the current centralized applications, such as Google and Uber and eBay, will become decentralized. And that actually loops back to something which I mentioned at the beginning, that we have a way to change the economy on the global scale. It's going to be very different economic models, much more fair and much more innovative. And we hope that SKALE will actually be the foundation of this. And I invite everyone that listens to this video to join our open source project. We have bounties, we have all kinds of cool things, and we need lots of help. And also we need lots of people to join our community. So I actually would like to encourage people to join us.
So you mentioned bounties, and I know you're running a pretty extensive program to help make sure that the network is secure. Can you tell us a little bit more about that and how that's structured? The bounties and the security program specifically.
Yeah. Okay. So definitely, I'd be happy to. So one interesting thing about our team is Stan's background. And so Stan actually ran a cryptography security lab for 7 years. And so performed extensive audits on incredibly complicated pieces of software, which my first startup, Good Technology, we used Stan's business to get certification. So the White House and the US government and FBI and US Senate could all use this product. So one thing Stan learned is that audits are incredibly valuable and you need to do audits, but you really get into the weeds when people try to attack the system and think about, threat modeling in a different perspective. So we're launching a major HackerOne award system where we are giving a lot of money away to people that find weaknesses within the system. And so this, combined with extensive audits, which have been done and will be continued to be performed, we think gives the network the best security. We also will be launching a Gitcoin bounty system to complement the work we're doing with HackerOne. We think both those systems have different groups of people that are talented and can find different weaknesses in the network before we're live.
Got it. That sounds pretty exciting. Of course, security has to be central to everything that we do, given the trust assumptions in the products in this industry. So I guess pivoting away from that a little bit, I'd love to learn more about some of the things you're doing to build community. Stan, you mentioned that you wanted to invite more people to join the community, and I know specifically you've been working with validators and working with developers. Can you comment a little bit more about some of the things you're doing to help build community and how that's going?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question. And I think it's so exciting, because we are kind of in the middle of it. We see these validators, and we see that essentially around the planet, all at the global scale, people in different countries becoming validators, learning to do this thing, not only for SKALE, but for many other networks. And you have very strong, I think, economic trend of people becoming validators, and staking is growing so fast. I think people underappreciate this. For validators, one thing which is going to be critical, and I think people may underappreciate this a little bit, is that earlier networks, they were simple. Bitcoin is simple. Ethereum may be a little bit more complex, but it's still on the simpler side. And our network, by necessity, is much more complex, and other people are also building more complex networks nowadays. So when the networks become complex, you can't really solve all of the problems by using mathematics or technology. You need also to have the social and the psychological even levels to actually create a community. So I think what's happening is that these communities are evolving into cooperatives of people that have their own democracies, and you need to be able to encourage people and entice them and all kinds of things. It's almost like religions or decentralized countries. So it's so exciting, and frankly, it's also unknown. No one ever built these decentralized communities before, so we'll see how they will play. And I think we're looking forward to starting doing this when the network goes in production. What we kind of understand at SKALE is that there cannot be perfect security, there cannot be perfect decentralization. We need to take this thing, the blockchain, the crypto, we need to take it mainstream. It has to cross the chasm. And so we'll see, I think in the future, we'll actually have to design many things as we run the thing. I think the critical thing is to have good human understanding and relationship inside the community, because no mathematics can help if the community goes sour. And here we have a great team, Jack and Christine and our marketing department. We're really trying to understand how can we entice and encourage people and explain to them that this thing is really exciting. It's really some really new future. Jack, do you have something to add to this?
Yeah, no, those are really good points. I can tell you one thing we're not doing, and that's going out in person and visiting people anymore. So, hey, the world has turned very virtual, which we're doing right here today, right? So one thing is like getting ahead of that and still trying to connect with the community. And for us, I think one advantage we have and that I would say is a huge, we're incredibly fortunate is just to be part of this Ethereum family. And there's an Ethereum community that of amazing people and not just amazing people, but also amazing tooling and ecosystem. And SKALE really, when we think about community, we think about how we support our community within Ethereum. And it's been awesome going to hackathons and events and really just getting to know the people behind Ethereum, because Ethereum is also not just math. It's just this broad collection of humans and people with similar ideals and intelligence and work ethic. So it's been fun, and so we really we feel like, hey, if we can focus on supporting that community and developers specifically, then the broader community will flourish, and so will the SKALE specific community.
So I guess one last question for you, and we've hinted on parts of this throughout this conversation already. You are going through, a pretty comprehensive process to get to mainnet launch. It's a lot of work to, one, make sure the network is secure and that the product is something that you can feel proud to go and put on mainnet and let anyone in the world go start using. Two, building community around validators, helping explain the product to developers who might actually benefit from building on top of it. And I'm sure that there's many other moving pieces as well. And there are a lot of people in the audience who are in a position like you or want to, get to a position like what you're in, where they want to launch something on the Ethereum mainnet sometime soon. Do you have any advice for them on, what some best practices are as you go towards a mainnet launch? Maybe we can have Stan talk first and Jack add something afterwards.
Yeah, I can give one advice, which is hopefully going to be valuable. The amazing thing nowadays is that no one codes anymore. No one writes code. Everyone searches for someone else's code. So the power of GitHub is amazing. People underestimate what GitHub is. GitHub is a revolution. It's kind of a singular point in human existence where millions of people literally every day put some code, and other people are using this code. It has never happened in the history ever. It's totally untrivial thing. So one thing which when I wake up every day, when I want to do something, the first thing which I ask myself, can I not do it and find it on GitHub? So using GitHub, being able to find things on GitHub is actually tremendously important. It can actually save you like zillions in terms of engineering costs. So actually understanding this new way of doing software engineering, I think that's one single advice that we've been taking at SKALE. And this actually helped our team to be smaller. And then we're trying to be very open and also providing our stuff to other people. For instance, this proof of use smart contracts. Any of you guys listening to this video could actually use this proof of use thing because it's open source. So try using other people's things and stealing, and then actually try to hack your way to speed things up, because the systems are complex, but we do have now tools, first time in the history of mankind, that allows us to create these complex systems. And I think GitHub and open source is the key. So that would be one single thing that I would advise people that also do projects. Search GitHub, learn, talk to people, don't just code in obscurity without actually looking at what other people do.
Yeah, and I'll add a really short answer. I know we're running short on time, so I would I'd say don't put the cart before the horse. One of the biggest mistakes people make is, I can't tell you how many people I've met in entrepreneurs in crypto that have spent all this money and time designing these foundation structures and all of these things that really don't matter if you don't build something people are going to use and you don't have product market fit. So do the basics well, go get your product market fit, and do the hard work in terms of building. And then you can dive into the myriad of activities that go into building and getting a network live that aren't about the code and the customers, right? So that's my one advice. And I think we did that well. What it means is, guess what? We're really busy doing a lot of other operational things right now, but I think we handled them in the right order.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining me, Jack and Stan, to share more about SKALE to the Ethereal audience. And thank you to everyone in the audience for coming to join us today.